For centuries, the Arctic was a place of myth and legend, a vast, white wilderness at the top of our world. Early explorers braved unimaginable cold and starvation, drawn not by riches but by the challenge and the hope of finding a northwest passage. Many ships were lost to the crushing ice, but the human spirit pressed on, slowly mapping this mysterious frontier. The 20th century changed everything. The Arctic became a strategic chessboard during the Cold War. The shortest flight path between the Soviet Union and North America ran over the North Pole, turning the region into a front line. Nuclear submarines prowled beneath the ice and radar stations dotted the tundra, watching for threats. The Arctic silence was broken by the hum of machinery and the tension of global rivalry. For indigenous peoples, this new military reality was an intrusion, disrupting lives shaped by the seasons and wildlife. The Arctic was no longer just a wilderness, but a critical buffer zone and a symbol of strategic power. Scientific outposts and military bases established during this era laid the groundwork for future activity. The Cold War ended, but the infrastructure and strategic mindset remained. The world had learned to operate in this harsh climate, developing technology to survive and eventually to exploit it. The Arctic's role as a stage for human courage had shifted to one of global significance. Its icy expanse, once a barrier, became a place of unseen threats and opportunity. The legacy of this era still shapes our perception of the Arctic today. The stage was set for a new chapter in the story of the North. Now, the Arctic faces a transformation driven by the planet itself, climate change. The great ice sheets are retreating at a pace never seen before. Each summer, the sea ice melts further, turning a continent of ice into an ocean of open water. What was once an impenetrable barrier is now a navigable sea, redrawing the world map. For centuries, only icebreakers and submarines could cross these waters. Now new pathways open each summer. The consequences are global. The Arctic's ice reflects sunlight, helping regulate Earth's climate. As ice vanishes, dark ocean absorbs more heat, accelerating warming in a dangerous feedback loop. The fate of the Arctic ice is tied to the climate of the entire planet. Storms, droughts and heat waves far from the Arctic are connected to its health. For wildlife, the thaw is catastrophic. Polar bears lose hunting grounds, walruses and seals lose vital ice flows. An intricate ecosystem evolved over millennia is being dismantled before our eyes. The Great Thaw is not just a geopolitical event, it's an ecological crisis. The Arctic's transformation is a warning to the world. The changes here are rapid, visible and irreversible within our lifetimes. The world must reckon with the consequences of a melting north. The Arctic's future is now a global concern. Melting ice is opening new shipping lanes, making the centuries-old dream of a northern passage a reality. The northern sea route along Siberia can cut travel time between Asia and Europe by up to 2 weeks. This revolution in logistics means massive fuel savings and increased efficiency for global shipping. Russia, controlling most of the Arctic coastline, sees an unprecedented opportunity. Ports, search and rescue, and icebreaker escorts are being developed. But the Arctic remains dangerous. Sudden storms, drifting ice, and a lack of infrastructure make navigation risky. An accident here, like an oil spill, would be catastrophic for the fragile ecosystem. The opening of these routes brings new geopolitical tensions. Russia claims the Northern Sea route as internal waters, while others argue it should be open to all. This debate is at the heart of new Arctic geopolitics. The melting ice is not just opening the sea, it's opening a new field of international competition. The Arctic's new shipping lanes are both an opportunity and a source of conflict. The world is watching as the top of the planet becomes a new global crossroads. Beneath the Arctic seabed lies a vast reservoir of untapped resources, oil, gas and minerals. Estimates suggest the region could hold 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its natural gas. The landmasses around the Arctic are rich in iron, copper, nickel and rare earth elements vital for modern technology. As demand for these materials soars, the Arctic is attracting global attention. Extracting these resources is a monumental challenge. Extreme cold, moving ice and lack of infrastructure make operations risky and expensive. The environmental risks are enormous. Oil spills or mining accidents could devastate the fragile ecosystem. The paradox is stark. Climate change is making these resources accessible, yet burning them will worsen the crisis. The Arctic's riches come with great peril. The race to exploit them is a cycle of consumption and consequence. The choices made here will echo far beyond the polar circle. The Arctic's treasure is both a promise and a warning. As the Arctic's value becomes clear, a new race for territory is underway. 5 nations, Russia, Canada, the US, Denmark via Greenland, and Norway, are seeking to extend their rights over the seabed. Under international law, countries can claim an extended continental shelf if they prove it's a natural extension of their land. This has triggered a scientific scramble, mapping the ocean floor, collecting data and filing claims. Russia, Canada and Denmark have overlapping claims even to the North Pole itself. These disputes are the new frontiers of Arctic geopolitics. The process is slow and technical, but the stakes are enormous. Control over billions in resources. For Russia, it's about economic survival. For Canada, it's about sovereignty. The lines drawn on these maps will shape the Arctic's future. The scramble is quiet, but its impact will last for generations. The race for resources is matched by a return of military power to the Arctic. Old Cold War bases are being reopened and modernized. New airfields, ports and radar stations are rising. Russia leads the build-up, establishing an Arctic strategic command and expanding its fleet of nuclear icebreakers. Other nations are responding, Canada with new patrol ships, Norway with advanced jets and the US upgrading its Arctic presence. This creates a security dilemma each build-up prompts others to follow, increasing the risk of confrontation. The Arctic's militarization threatens to turn it from a zone of cooperation into one of competition. The risk of accidents or miscalculation grows as more military assets crowd the region. The new Cold War is pragmatic, focused on resources and influence. The Arctic's future hangs between cooperation and conflict. The world must decide what kind of frontier the North will become. At the heart of the Arctic drama is an environmental tragedy. The melting permafrost releases methane and carbon dioxide, accelerating global warming. Infrastructure built on once solid ground is now collapsing as the Earth thaws. Indigenous communities face disappearing hunting grounds and vanishing wildlife. The paradox is acute. The world must move away from fossil fuels, yet the Arctic's melting opens new reserves. Drilling here would worsen the crisis and risk devastating spills. The Arctic's fate is a test of humanity's wisdom. Will we see it as a last resource grab or as a global commons to protect? The decisions made here will shape the planet's future. The Arctic's story is a warning and a choice. Amid tension, the Arctic Council stands as a forum for cooperation. Formed in 1996, it unites the 8 Arctic states and indigenous groups, focusing on sustainable development and environmental protection. The Council has produced vital scientific assessments and negotiated treaties on search and rescue and oil spill response. It shows that collaboration in the High North is possible and essential. The Council's work is a model for shared stewardship even as geopolitical tensions rise. Its recommendations aren't binding and its future is uncertain, especially after recent conflicts. Yet its existence is a powerful symbol of diplomacy over confrontation. The Council represents a different path for the Arctic, one of science, respect and peace. Its survival is critical for the region's future. The world needs this beacon of hope at the top of the planet. The Arctic's future hangs in the balance, a region of opportunity and risk. One path leads to conflict and environmental ruin, the other to cooperation and preservation. Achieving peace requires strengthening institutions like the Arctic Council and forging new treaties. True security comes from collaboration, not militarization. Indigenous wisdom must guide our choices. The Arctic is the canary in the coal mine for climate change, a test of our ability to manage shared resources. The choices are stark: exploitation or stewardship. Will we protect this fragile Eden, or let it become another casualty of our appetites? The world is watching, and the Arctic is waiting for our answer.